Everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. We are in New Tech Month, sponsored by AI Bot. And if you haven't figured it out yet from that initial video, we're here with Doodle Labs today. And we've got Dominic Demarco, their senior sales engineer with us today to talk about some of the new tech they're pushing out. So welcome to the show, Dominic.
Hi, Don. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Everybody, I know, Doodle Labs is no stranger to this show. They were on, I believe it was last May, talking about their amazing Helix 6-band radio. And so many things have happened since then. So we're going to catch you up today since we're focused on new tech. But before that, Dominic, why don't you, for those that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Well, my primary role at Doodle Labs is a senior sales engineer. I have over 10 years of RF experience, primarily 6 years in the special operations community as a tactical radio operator. So in the real field, I got to play with radios, experience a lot of the challenges that we'd see in Department of Defense applications from EMI, which is electromagnetic interference, jamming from enemies, all that fun stuff. And then you get to go into my next field with commercial and the Department of Defense testing, where we did about 4 years of me doing air to ground network mesh testing. So strong background of just encountering a lot of these daily RF challenges that companies either have experienced or they're about to experience when they hop into this drone field, because it's an invisible link in the sky. How do you troubleshoot that? So really just excited to talk about our upcoming feature Sense with you on this subject. And thanks again for having me on.
Well, honestly, our pleasure. And before we get into Sense very specifically, why don't we give folks just a brief overview as to what the Doodle Labs does and the kinds of products that you offer?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Doodle Labs kind of answers that question for the growing demand for private wireless solutions in industries for robotics, conventional wireless technologies, where some of the normal Wi-Fi just falls short. And what we're trying to do is provide reliable, high throughput, long distance, and resilient communications in harsh environments, from operating with 100 robots in the same warehouse trying to pass data reliably to a search and rescue mission where you don't have the opportunity for something to go bad. You want that video to stay up. You want that sensor information to come from air to ground so you can make decisions real time without trying to troubleshoot your radio rather than trying to solve the actual problem. Just a couple of things that we do, from radios as small as our nano radio that's fitting into small UASs, to our mini, which has been shipped overseas, Ukraine, in real world mission environments and battle proven, to our new wearable radio, which is how do we have the humans talking to the robots, right? How do we get to connectivity to all that information that is imperative for us to make those decisions right away?
I love the show and tell. It's so cool. So let's back up for a second, because being everywhere interference. In fact, I just learned yesterday, I forget what lecture I was in. They were talking about oh, you know what it was? I interviewed a company that's making IMUs, inertial measurement units, and the
Yeah.
CEO turned me on to a website called gpsjam.com. I think that's what it is. It's in my notes. They literally show the globe and all the GPS jamming that's happening globally. And of course, if you look around the area, it's just blanketed with red. Same with Ukraine, Russia, right? So we're seeing all these conflicts. We're seeing this being ubiquitous in these conflicts, but it's not limited to conflicts, of course. Tell us a little bit about what interference is and why it's a problem.
Yeah, allow me to kind of set the stage a little bit, where I want to think of spectrum and radio and RF. It's a very unfun topic for a lot of people, but a very important one, where we're all on a freeway, and anytime you have a traffic jam, that slows you down. Anytime you're trying to cross over a lane, somebody's in that same lane, you create a collision, it's not too dissimilar how spectrum operates. And if somebody is occupying that same frequency, whether it's Wi-Fi, cellular, that you're trying to communicate on, there's going to be a lot of problems with video cutting out, almost as if I have my Wi-Fi link, everything's perfect at the airport, all of a sudden I can't get a YouTube video up. So with that idea, right, where there's two different types of EMI, electromagnetic, there's accidental, where Wi-Fi is accidentally blocking out another Wi-Fi router. And then there's intentional, where someone's legitimately, they have a radio gun. It's almost like, it looks like a laser, like one of those laser guns that you do at the arcade. It's blocking a drone purposely so it doesn't find location or give up important information. So when you have that, there's a lot of limitations that companies going forward, when they're trying to provide a solution for resilient communications, that they just aren't aware of, because, well, I only need a radio that's low cost and I have a single frequency, that should work, right? Once that gets jammed, your video goes out. That distance of what you advertise, 5, 10, 15, 20 kilometers, it doesn't exist anymore because you're busy trying to figure out what is jamming your unit. Hopefully that makes a little sense. Hopefully I painted it. It's a hard thing to kind of explain for everybody, but that was my attempt.
No, it's you termed it, it's not really a sexy topic, but it's one that's so critically important because not only does it affect communications links, right, but also control. So all, in fact, you may not know this, Dominic, but our Law Tech Connect workshop at AVSI Exponential, we're actually doing a space and spectrum panel this year for this very reason, because people don't quite understand it. There's so many things you need to think about from a compliance standpoint, from the FCC, et cetera. So we're gonna educate people on that. And in fact, I hope you join us, Dominic. But let's talk about Sense, because you created this product to very specifically with this interference problem. So tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Where Sense was really inspired from was what we just previously talked about. It's that common challenge of, I'm having my links jammed by either accidental or intentional jamming. So it's a game-changing communication feature designed to automatically navigate and mitigate interference, right? It's changing bands, bandwidth, and frequencies automatically, where we started it off as a manual feature, and we started realizing that while there's experienced users on the ground, there's also some inexperienced users for RF. And how do we take their job and make it their primary focus instead of them trying to be a radio troubleshooter? And Sense has that ability of this feature to already detect what's available on the spectrum before you take flight, and have alternative paths for you on spectrum for you to bounce with. It's a multi-band technology, which that's what Doodle really specializes in. We don't have just single band radios. We have multiple frequencies on a single unit, which allows that diversity for when I'm being jammed in spectrum A, I can move to spectrum B. And we do that within milliseconds. So video cuts out right away. As soon as we switch, it comes back up and the mission resumes, rather than minutes, hours, sometimes days in the DoD. So
yeah, well, anytime you can reduce that cognitive workload on a pilot or an operator, that's really critical. And what I also love about what you guys do is that it's dual use technology, because we didn't really dive deep into this, and we really won't here, Dominic, but the fact is there's different frequencies that the military uses than the commercial sector. And you guys actually have products that can dwell in either world. Is that right?
yeah, absolutely. Because Doodle Lab started as a commercial company and like answering kind of the industrial solutions or the challenges. And we caught attention with defense, as defense does. And we worked with DIU to actually create a family of radios called the Helix family that has federal bands for military use and Department of Defense use, which we not only just started from 1 or 2, we have 4 to 6 different bands on a low swap radio, and it's cost effective as well, which allows, I think, a lot of companies from small or large to innovate at a faster rate.
So you and I are both former military, Dominic, and we live and breathe acronyms, but not everybody does. So I'm sure most of our listeners know what DIU is, but it's the Defense Innovation Unit.
Yep.
And SWAP is size, weight, and power. So that's what we're talking about here. And, Dominic, a picture paints 1,000 words, if you will. I know we have a video that helps to illustrate this process with sense. So let's roll that, and I'm going to have you go ahead and walk us through it.
No problem. So this is one of our customers, PDW, Performance Drone Works. And this video is actually highlighting when they're flying their C100, which it can hold kilograms of weight for payload. It's modular and it's quickly deployable. That if it were to encounter intentional jamming on this video, you'll see someone pointing. It's not an AK-47, it's an RF gun. The video comes out. The operator responds with a manual selection, which is an available feature on Sense. But now we have automatic, and it would jump right away. And as you see, the video comes back up within a second or two, and it is mission resumes. We're going to find the bad guy. We're going to find the missing person, and so forth.
All right, awesome. Now, I mentioned Ukraine, and I know you've got companies like helping the Ukrainians and in that particular conflict. Why don't you tell us how this sense technology has been tested in defense applications like those in the Ukraine?
Oh, great question. I mean, Sense has undergone rigorous real world testing because we started out as a beta. We had customers had a real active need for this software, and they're willing to test it in Ukraine. They're willing to evaluate it, give us feedback, and it allowed us to kind of develop it as a complete solution to send to customers now. And with that, these challenges with active jamming spaces, it really helped companies like UKR Spec System and Evolve Dynamics that are sending radios over there right now to have the resilience and comlinks to do the mission that they need to do.
All right, very good. And I believe, I don't know if we showed one or two pictures. By the way, I was cracking up when you're talking about interference, you're at the airport or whatever. For those, once again, that may not know, I'm actually in a hotel in Las Vegas for CES, and I'm just riding hotel Wi-Fi right now, praying that this is going well. There's some things I can't see, but that you all can. So hopefully this is going for you guys. All right. So there's something about a mini shark. Tell me about this mini shark and how it integrates with your sense.
Yeah, so we've got a picture of the Shark Mini up right now, Don, and it's a fixed wing payload. It's a UAV, and the payloads are modular. What a payload is, it's whatever type of data that you need, whether it's infrared or some type of sensor data or just full-on video. And what they've been able to do with our Helix random radios, and they've been having success over the last couple of years, is flying over 80 kilometers with their built ground control station, passing resilient links over enemy lines so they can get the intel they need to make decisions and support their troops on the ground.
First of all, loving the name Shark. And number two, you got another one you're working with called Sky Mantis. I love the creativity here. So tell us about this Sky Mantis and how this is working with Sense.
Yeah, Sky Mantis is really interesting. They're a quick deployable drone that you can backpack and go out into the mission with their ground control station. And the payloads are modular. They can literally grab what they need for the mission out of the case, put it together in minutes, and deploy it right away. And there's some really great dynamic applications for it where they can tether it if weather is a challenge, or they can let it fly for a 1 hour flight time. And what they've come to find are these challenges like everybody else of we're getting jammed or we're experiencing constant EMI in urban environments. If a natural disaster kicks off and cellular starts, we don't have an ability to communicate. So with our Helix, Helix Mini, they're having a lot of success from a manual interface to utilizing Sense in future operations to just allow them to do what they do best, which is fly drones.
I feel like I've seen that drone before, and Mike can correct me here, our producer, but we had Tim Martin on the show last year. Is one of our top law enforcement about some of the different drones that he uses, and I feel like this was one of them. It's such a cool looking, very useful disaster response. You could see why public safety would be highly interested here. But let's pivot for a second, talk about PDW, because you mentioned, them earlier, and I know their C100 was just recently added to DIU's Blue UAS cleared drone list. You guys have been part of this Blue framework for years. It's so funny, Dominic. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, again at their booth. I was like,
Yeah.
are you integrating the Blue component folks? They're like, oh no, it's only drone people. I'm like, no, it's like, no, there's a whole framework. Like Doodle Labs is one of them. Modal AI with their autopilots, you guys I know also work closely with. So tell us a little bit about your participation in this Blue UAS program and what it's meant to Doodle Labs.
It's been really huge. I mean, what Blue UAS in its essence is, how do we get the trust of our government to procure from us at an easier way? Like, what are the check marks that they need to, one, have trust that we're not made from, foreign entities, that we don't trust other countries, and we also kind of have the they took the time and to look into our company and look into our technology, finding it valid, and also knowing that it's NDA compliant, which is really huge in the drone industry, as it's going to be picking off that rule set in 2024 for what we're pushing away from and what we're moving towards. To be on that list has been huge.
Yeah, so NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. About don't know, fiscal year 2020, the Congress passed Section 848 in that particular law, and does prohibit the DoD from purchase drones or drones with components. That's and Doodle has been a big part of that. And obviously, like we talked about, doing, working and integrating with other into their platforms in Ukraine, other places. Let's talk about the commercial side. How do you see Sense helping with the industrial and commercially focused drones?
Well, another great question. I mean, from my military background, it was surprising to see how many similarities and challenges, from just an ability to operate with EMI is hindering so many operations, where on a construction site, or for public safety or search and rescue, where they're accidentally being jammed out by cellular, or somebody else is transmitting on accident. So when we're looking at what the applications, how we're developing with autonomous systems for commercial applications, having these clear lanes on that freeway I was talking about of spectrum are becoming more and more important, where they're, of course, every company wants to operate on low cost, but the keyword has to be high capability.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that spectrum available to pivot, your system becomes redundant really quickly. And we're trying to push and answer the calls of like tomorrow's problems by listening to what customers are experiencing now. And that's what I really love about what Doodle does, because we take that focus and we listen to that feedback and we try to find a solution as fast as possible.
Well, on the commercial side, and we're all hopeful, but see what happens this year in 2024, that the FAA will maybe push out a notice of public rulemaking on beyond visual line of sight, what people are referring to as Part 108, right, on the commercial side, because
Yep.
until we can, have a line of sight and one operator to many drones, not going to have that kind of repeatable, scalable, ubiquitous drone industry that we're all looking to see on that commercial side. But to your point, right, you need reliable connections. You can't, especially, if you can't see it, within your eyesight. I mean, sure, they'll have an op center and whatnot, but to have that reliable and safe connectivity, and to be able to hop frequencies, as you called it, that's going to be really critical.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And you brought up a great point with it's beyond visual line of sight. You might see it on the articles as VVLOS, of that's going to change a lot of things for the better, in my opinion. And we're talking about reliable, then there's relayable, which will bring up that topic of Doodle Labs. We're a mesh company, meaning we have that ability to pass through and relay through other radios, where if you don't have line of sight to drone A, throwing up another radio, and swarm technology is becoming huge right now, as we see from we're replacing fireworks with drone display shows. So having radios extend that distance, and with a relay up in the air, pushes your drone from 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 100 miles. So when we start talking about beyond visual line of sight, it's going to push the industry in the right direction, and it's going to make a lot of really cool solutions we haven't thought of before.
Well, I love that. Not just reliable, but relayable. And, when people think about swarms, you bring up a great example. I don't know that the public connects that in their mind, because that word swarm is really, in a way, it's kind of like has a negative connotation, doesn't it? When you
Yeah.
hear swarm, it sounds scary, but that's exactly what drone light shows are. And oh, by the way, you think about these other applications, even on the commercial side, for precision agriculture, to have a swarm of drones that, each drone, for example, has a different kind of sensor on it,
Yep.
whether it's a soil moisture sensor, or a LiDAR, all operating in your radios, and this. Let's talk about that, because you have so many different form factors that you've introduced. So tell us a little bit about these new multi-band combinations and how they cater to the needs of different agencies.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for bringing that up again. So I kind of showed some of the form factors, and let's talk about the image of what I have up right now is kind of this, everything's kind of linking together with these lines where there's people on the ground connecting to ground robotics, or there's a drone up in the air. What we're trying to create is this ecosystem, or we've heard this term IoT, Internet of Things, right?
Right.
It's how do we have this encompassing the storm or swarm, right, of people being able to pass data reliably, where in previous applications, older scalability on networks, meaning how many people can be in a network, it would throttle a network. So when you go to the airport, we are talking about that earlier, you might have 5 bars, full bars on your cellular. You can't send a text because everybody is oversubscribing. What the beauty of what mesh does is I don't need a single point of failure, because everybody has the ability to communicate. So something as small as this radio can go into a lightweight drone this is our nano, our 1x1, and then our mini, which has been widely used for robotics from air to ground, has been our dual MIMO, our smallest form factor and our most resilient one as well, because it allows more room for manufacturers to put other things of importance inside their system, rather than having a larger radio system take up space and draw heat and power.
Yeah, absolutely. Use the acronym MIMO.
Yes, multiple in, multiple out, right? Where there's radios that have a single antenna, which is single in, single out, or CISO, and that's actually right that example with my Nano. MIMO can do a lot of great things with one, high throughput and antenna diversity, meaning if one antenna is linking better with the other, the radio is going to use its smarts to actually connect and help keep that link go a little bit farther. And
Okay.
more antennas, the merrier in that scenario, of course.
All right. Now, the one you were just holding, again, if you don't mind,
Oh,
is that the
yes.
wearable one?
Yeah, this is our new wearable. It's, as a prior radio operator, this is what I love. This is, I can hold it, I can turn it on. It has a Wi-Fi access point. And I use a lot of, when I was in the military, I needed to have an ability to communicate to my teammates on a private network and pass geospatial data, which is like it's called ATAC. We send chat messages over a radio network. So having this type of ability to, one, not only connect with people, but to connect to your robotics and to connect to really anything that has a Doodle radio, your ability to spread and share and receive data becomes tenfold.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like CES is now, right? But I was just at this Edge 2024, and that used to be called CES Government. I met a really cool company that's yeah, for public safety and Air Force and DoD, and I want to introduce you guys to them after the show because you're gonna. I think there's a great nexus. But this wearable radio. Um,
Yep.
so what are the different variations and what are the specific applications? You mentioned the military one, like when you were in special ops. Are there others?
Yeah, and actually, that puts it in a narrower scope. That's one application. I would say connected teams is the best way to say it, is like what I was previously explaining, because you can have a construction site. If you have guys that are maybe 1,000 meters away on one end and there's no cellular, there's no satellite, having one of these and you can send chat messages using the right software. Because what we're really talking about isn't specific payloads of what we're passing. We're passing data as if it's a wireless hotspot that goes farther than your current commercial low-cost radio Wi-Fi routers can. You only get a few feet, like a few hundred feet at best, where
Yeah,
we're talking kilometers, passing video, passing images. Then there's also just, how do I get a private network up in minutes, right?
yeah,
That's always a challenge, where uh, whether you're a first responder or in a warehouse, you need to get something up. You can pull these radios off the charger, out of the Pelican case, turn it on, and connect your device to it, and communicate to anybody else that also has a wearable within the proximity, within line of sight. And that we talked about mesh a little bit, where I just want you to think of, I could see you, you could see me, but soon as we break line of sight, we don't have an ability to communicate.
yeah,
And the nice thing about our radios is they're passive relays, meaning that if there's enough radios spread out within that ecosystem, you don't need to be directly in line of sight with me. You just need to be next to a radio that's a part of that network, and we're going to be able to communicate. Like, Don, come on over, I've got dinner cooking. And then you don't have to look at me or yell at me at the same time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, very cool. So much going on. So, again, from the Mesh Rider Radio, the Mini, the Nano, all of these things that you guys have pushed out. And you guys had a great show at AUVSI last year. I remember going to your booth, and they were like little can you show them your logo? I love your logo. Like, just kind of like lift your shirt up because it's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Like they had these like tiles on the floor at AUVSI exponential that like Doodle Labs this way or something, and it was like
Yep.
awesome. Like, follow the brick road or something to
Yep.
Doodle. So you guys have accomplished so much, and now we're in this new year. You've got this new Sense Tech. Tell us, Dominic, what can we expect from you guys in 2024?
We're going to keep pushing the boundaries of sense. It's just only the beginning, right? Because this technology is a software defined radio. And what that really means is we can keep pushing the capabilities on our current hardware while working on developing the next family of radios as well. There's always a limit, but we do have a lot of room to keep growing and expanding sense, from point to point to mesh auto band switching. These are things that we're already kind of looking ahead for. But I would also encourage you just to keep up with us on our Doodle Labs website. We also have I'll make sure we get that link out to everybody. We have a great bench test demo of Sense. So we've been talking about it for some people that kind of just want to see what it actually does and how it works. Come on to our website. We have the article and a video with one of our key engineers showing the feature of Sense, so you get an idea of how it can apply to your use case.
Very cool. So are there any other like products or services that you wanted to talk about before we kind of close out the show here shortly?
Yeah, I mean, with our radios, we have different types of multi-band offerings, from that ISM for commercial side that match FCC requirements, ready to go, ready to install. And then we also have the federal bands that we talked about. But
Yeah.
some of our partners that we've worked with in the past are Modal AI, Octerion, UXV. We're very active in that drone and robotic space, and we continue to make that a primary focus. And also, we're AUVSI members as well, and we're regulars at Exponential. And we actually just joined AUSA's national partners as well.
Oh, excellent. Very cool. Very cool. Speaking of which, like what shows or can we find you at this year, Dominic?
Oh, well, we're definitely going to be at Exponential and some AUVSI shows. We'll keep you guys updated through our email chains as well because there's more coming. But yeah, we're going to be more active in this field this year. We're really excited for it.
Well, speaking of which, are there any other big announcements?
You know what? Right now, I think Sense is the one that I'm most excited about. But, stay tuned. We're going to keep coming out with some more things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're getting real close to our time together, and I want to make sure that we covered everything you wanted to talk about here today, Dominic, and certainly let folks know how they can learn more about Doodle Labs and plug into your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, visiting doodlelabs.com is a great way to kind of figure out our case studies. And we also have a really robust technical library. And then we also have really great, we have a presence on LinkedIn. And if there's any, interest just to contact and integrate with us, just reach out through our contact.doodlelabs.com. But um, from what I take away is just what we have with customers is why we're here, right? The feedback and the engagement. So we don't steer it away. We're definitely ready to reach out and innovate with new customers. So
Well, you mentioned a number of them, and we've seen some pictures of some really cool drones, some use cases in Ukraine and otherwise. Um, are there any, kind of client experiences or, kind of best practices or anything you wanted to share?
well, you know what? From my standpoint, I got to say, when I've been in the radio industry for quite some time, and getting to know these radios has been a personal experience of mine when I've been coming out testing with it, and that's how I kind of this company earned my trust even more, where I'm able to use it and able to kind of assess where, as a radio engineer, to have a lot of real-time metrics and analytics on a software-defined radio that can tell me what is going on with my network and why and how to solve it. I've really been impressed with what we've been able to do from a software and hardware standpoint. And I keep getting that same feedback from customers almost every week. So the ability, and some customers are pushed on timelines trying to get a prototype to development quickly. And we've been able to get radios out quickly, and they've been able to integrate quickly. So quick is the word that I was surprised and delighted from. And so with a lot of our customers as well.
I think that's a great word. I love the words we had earlier, which were, reliable, relayable. So now you got a new tagline: quick, reliable, relayable. There you go.
That's
So
going to be on our next shirt, Don. We'll send one your
there
way.
you go. And I want one, man. I've got your awesome snapback hat that you guys gave me, and I wear it all the time.
All right.
So absolutely. If you make a beanie too, I love those. So just saying.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm all about the swag, my friend.
Send it.
Yeah, exactly. So as we get close to our time here together, Dominic, do you have any closing comments you want to make before we dial off?
Yeah, I mean, just what makes Doodle Lab special, right? Our dedication to really just pushing these boundaries. And how we do it is we don't have a single customer. We have multiple from different avenues from that commercial and deity space. And we just encourage collaboration. We're not here to say we're the best at everything, but we're trying to get better every day, every month, every week. And really excited for our future and just the future of the drone industry as a whole. And just thank you so much for having us on this podcast.
Yeah,
It was great.
absolutely. And just a reminder, this is the dawn of autonomy, and you guys connect, robots, you connect people, you connect all kinds of things that you're doing both on the military and commercials. Team, and certainly hopefully you'll visit Exponential this year in April in San Diego and visit that amazing booth and get to see these guys in person. So until then, thank you again so much, everybody. We are out here.